Hey, sorry about that. The battery had died, and we know where we had left off, so we'll go ahead and read the last one before it, and then continue on from there. We are accustomed to examining the mechanism of the implements which we use for the tilling and soil, and we try to get an understanding of the mechanism of the automobile which we drive. Most of us are content to remain in absolute ignorance of the greatest piece of mechanism that which has ever come into existence, the brain of man. Let us examine the wonders of this mechanism. Perhaps we shall thereby get a better understanding of the various effects of which it is the cause. In the first place, there is a great mental world in which we live and move and have our being. This world is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. It will respond to our desires in direct ratio to our purpose and faith. The purpose must be in accordance with the law of our being, that is, it must be creative or constructive. Our faith must be strong enough to generate a current of sufficient strength to bring our purpose into manifestation. As thy faith is, so be it unto thee, bears the stamp of scientific test. The effects which are produced in the world without are the result of the action and reaction of the individual upon the universal. That is the process which we call thinking. The brain is the organ through which this process is accomplished. Think of the wonder of it all. Do you love music, flowers, literature, or are you inspired by the thought of ancient or modern genius? Remember, every beauty to which you respond must have its corresponding outline in your brain before you can appreciate it. Now remember, since the brain is the organ of since the conscious mind, yes, since the brain and cerebral spinal is the organ of the conscious mind, and then the conscious deals with the external world, it is whatever the brain is picking up on, like your eyes pick up on vibrations, and then your mind goes into registering it from your thoughts, or whatever it is your brain is picking up off of it from. Your brain is picking up on sound, and that is how you hear, because your mind is registering those specific sounds as to how you hear and the way you hear, because no two people see the same, no two people hear the same, no two people do anything the same. We're all unique in our own way. Okay. The effects which are produced in the world without are the results of the action and reaction of the individual upon the universal. That is the process which we call thinking. The brain is the organ through which this process is accomplished. Think of the wonder of it all. Do you love music, flowers, literature, or are you inspired by thought of ancient or modern genius? I know I had read this already, but I'm going ahead and reading it again. Remember, every beauty to which you respond must have its corresponding outline in your brain before you can appreciate it. There is not a single virtue or principle in the storehouse of nature which the brain cannot express. The brain is an embryonic world, ready to develop at any time as necessity may arise. If you can comprehend that this is a scientific truth and one of the wonderful laws of nature, it will be easier for you to get an understanding of the mechanism by which these extraordinary results are being accomplished. The nervous system has been compared to an electric circuit, with its battery of cells in which force is originated, and its white matter as to insulated wires by which the current is conveyed. It is through these channels that every impulse or desire is carried through the mechanism. The spinal cord is the great motor and sensory pathway by which messages are conveyed to and from the brain. Then there is the blood supply, plunging through the veins and arteries, renewing our energy and strength, the perfectly arranged structure upon which the entire body rests, the entire physical body rests. And finally, the delicate and beautiful skin clothing the entire mechanism is a mantle of beauty. This, then, is the temple of the living God, and the individual I is given control, and upon his understanding of the mechanism which is within his control will the results depend. Every thought sets the brain cells in action. At first, the substance upon which the thought is directed fails to respond, but if the thought is sufficiently refined and concentrated, the substance finally yields and expresses perfectly. This influence of the mind can be exerted upon any part of the body, causing the elimination of the undesirable effect. A perfect conception and understanding of the laws governing the mental world cannot fail to be of inestimable value in the transaction of business, as it develops the power of discernment and gives a clear understanding and appreciation of facts. The man who looks within instead of without cannot fail to make use of the mighty forces which will eventually determine his course in life and so bring him into vibration with all that is best, strongest, and most desirable. Attention or concentration is probably the most essential in the development of mind culture. The possibilities of attention, when properly directed, are so startling that they would hardly appear credible to the initiated. The cultivation of attention is the distinguishing characteristic of each successful man or woman, and is the very highest personal accomplishment which can be acquired. The power of attention can be more readily understood by comparing it with the magnifying glass, in which the rays of sunlight are focused. They possess no particular strength as long as the glass is moved about the rays directed from one place to another. But let the glass be held perfectly still, and let the rays be focused on the spot for any length of time, the effect will become immediately apparent. So with the power of thought. It's funny because my immediate environment is testing me in my attention, and this is what we're doing. This is what we have to keep our focus on. So with the power of thought, there's an example I want to put with that one too. When he talks about the glass, focusing the glass with sunlight. Everyone knows the effect of magnifying glass. When you focus the rays of the sun on any specific point, it gets really hot, and it could even burn you. It's the same with your thought. The more you focus your thought on a specific thing, the more power, the more prestige you are putting into that thought. You are literally building like that narrow pathway within your own thinking. Because when you're not concentrated on a specific thing, it could be likened as to, your thoughts are more surrounding you. They're more scattered. Your energies are more, aware of its surroundings. But when you're focused on one specific thing, you're putting this ball of energy in line with one specific goal. And so you're creating that narrow line with it, increasing its power to get something done, accomplished. Let power be dissipated by scattering the thought from one object to another, and no result is apparent. But focus this power through attention or concentration on any single purpose for any length of time, and nothing becomes impossible. A very simple remedy for the very complex situation. Some will say, "All right, try it. You who have had no experience in concentrating the thought on a definite purpose or object. Choose any single object and concentrate your attention upon it for a definite purpose for even 10 minutes. You cannot do it. The mind will wander a dozen times, and it will be necessary to bring it back to the original purpose. And each time the effect will have been lost, and in the end of the 10 minutes nothing will have been gained, because you have not been able to hold your thoughts steadily to the purpose. It is, however, through attention that you will finally be able to overcome obstacles of any kind that appear in your path onward and upward, and the only way to acquire this wonderful power is by practice. Practice makes perfect, and this as in anything else. It's really funny too, because I want to share something with you really quick about, your thought energy. I know for a fact that you've been with somebody and you ended up saying something, and then they were saying like, "Hey, I was thinking the same thing." Like we were talking about, everything is energy, and your minds are literally communicating with each other, even if you're not, aware of it yet. That is what our minds do. That is what we do as beings in general. You could read people's energy, because you could read their energy, you could read what they're doing, you could sometimes feel what they're thinking, when they're so focused and putting their concentration in that one field of thought. And sometimes they could put that focus in on you, and you can feel, you feel the vibes. You really do. And I know Not every one of you, no, I know for a fact every one of you who are seeing this, watching this video right now, have had that experience in one form or another. And also, let's say you were thinking about somebody you haven't seen for the longest time, and they end up calling you a week later, or that same day, or you end up seeing that person somewhere, say the gym, the mall, at Stater Brothers, Food for Less, Target, wherever. It's amazing how it all works. In order to cultivate the power of attention, bring a photograph with you to the same seat in the same room in the same position as heretofore. Examine it closely at least 10 minutes. Note the expression of the eyes, the form of the features, the clothing, the way the hair is arranged. In fact, note every detail shown in the photograph carefully. Sorry. Now, cover it and close it with your eyes and try to see it mentally. If you can see every detail perfectly and can form a good mental image of the photograph, you are to be congratulated. If not, repeat the process until you can. This step is simply for the purpose of preparing the soil. Next week, we shall be ready to sow the seeds. It is by such exercise that you will finally be able to control your mental moods, your attitude, and your consciousness. Great financiers are learning to withdraw from the multitude more and more, that they may have more time for planning, thinking, and generating the right mental moods. Successful businessmen are constantly demonstrating the fact that it pays to keep in touch with the thought of other successful businessmen. A single idea may be worth millions of dollars, and these ideas can only come to those who are receptive, who are prepared to receive them, who are in successful frames of mind. Men are learning to place themselves in harmony with the universal mind. They are learning the unity of all things. They are learning the basic methods and principles of thinking, and this is changing conditions and multiplying results. They are finding that circumstances and environment may follow the trend of mental and spiritual progress. They find that growth follows knowledge, action follows inspiration, opportunity follows perception, always the spiritual first, then the transformation into the infinite and illimitable possibilities of achievement. As the individual is but the channel for the differentiation of the universal, these possibilities are necessarily inexhaustible. Thought is the process by which we may absorb the spirit of power and hold the result in our inner consciousness until it becomes a part of our ordinary consciousness. The method of accomplishing this result by the persistent practice of a few fundamental principles, as explained in this system, is the master key which unlocks the storehouse of universal truth. The two great sources of human suffering at present are bodily disease and mental anxiety. These may be readily traced to the infringement of some natural law. This is, no doubt, owing to the fact that so far knowledge has largely remained partial, but the clouds of darkness which have accumulated through long ages are beginning to roll away, and with them many of the miseries that attend imperfect information. And here's a quote by Mr. Larson. That a man can change himself, improve himself, recreate himself, control his environment, and master his own destiny is a conclusion of every mind who is wide awake to the power of right thought and constructive action. Now that again is by Larson. I want to say maybe Christian D. Larson, but there's no first name. It just says Larson. But anyway, now time for Part 6 of the study questions and answers. Question 1. What are some of the effects which can be produced by electricity? Heat, light, power, and music. 2. Upon what do these various effects depend? Upon the mechanism to which electricity is attached. 3. What is the result of the action and interaction of the individual mind upon the universal? The conditions and experiences with which we meet. 4. How may these conditions be changed? By changing the mechanism by which the universal is differentiated into form. Now remember that the mechanism he's talking about is the brain of man. And I don't know if you're with me in any other my videos, but the brain literally changes its structure so it could form to your new thought patterns, your energy patterns. You know, 'cause thoughts are a form of energy, your words are a form of energy, and your actions are a form of energy. These are the three energy creations that your body manifests through you to create in the external world. And your brain is literally the perfect tool, because it is the tool that changes itself to where you literally change, you know, your physical part of you. You know, it's amazing how, you know, that connection. And music too. Music literally changes the structure of your brain. It's science. So make sure you're always listening to positive stuff that uplifts you, you know. So let's continue. Question 5. What is this mechanism? The brain. How may it be changed? By the process we call thinking. Thoughts produce brain cells, and these cells respond to the corresponding thought in the universal. 7. Of what value is the power of concentration? It is the very highest personal accomplishment which can be acquired, and the distinguishing characteristic of every successful man or woman. 8. How may it be acquired? By faithfully practicing the exercises in this system. Why is this so important? Because it will enable us to control our thoughts, and since thoughts are causes, conditions must be effects. If we can control the cause, we can also control the effect. And number 10. What is changing conditions and multiplying results in the objective world? Men are learning the basic methods of constructive thinking. Now that is the end of part 6. Remember, each week we are staying specifically on this one section. We are now a month and a half of obtaining our master key. And yeah, I'm definitely excited with, you know, my new channel that I created. And yeah, and I'm definitely excited with where I'm at with my occupation right now. I had my first client the other day. I'll leave her name out of it, but she has 2 kids. She's married. She just finished getting her certificate for dentistry, and she doesn't live too far. She lives out in Moreno Valley, and you know, at least too far from the gym that I'm training her at. And I gotta tell you that I'm making all my dreams are coming true. You know, I got my free channel going up. You know, I'm taking the initiative of reading this. So all I want to do is inspire people, and hopefully you'd be inspired by watching my progress. We still have like 20 something weeks to go. I think 18 weeks. We'll definitely see where we're at in 18 weeks, and we're taking this one step at a time, and no rush and no haste, because the more you rush things, the more mistakes you'll just make. And mistakes are good because you never truly fail. You find out how it doesn't work, but also you don't want to move too fast. And that being said, move as fast as you need to. Well, I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to take that word out, because in reality, we don't need anything. You know, I don't need to make these. You know, I don't need to get up in the morning. I don't need to pay my bills. I don't need to go work out. You know, it's all a choice that I want to do. You know, I want to get up in the morning. I want to read these books. I want to go to the gym. I want to train people. I want to inspire people. You know, everything you do daily should be something that you want to do. You know, if you feel that you need to do something, it's only going to create, you know, negative energy currents within yourself, because the thought of need comes from the idea that you lack something. You know, and abundance is a natural law, and we all have abundance. You know, it all depends on where the type of abundance that you want in your life. You know, whether it's financial abundance, whether it's relationship abundance, whether it's, you know, inspirational abundance, you know, motivating. You know, we all have the same amount of abundance. So count your blessings, because if you're not thankful for what you have, what are the chances you're ever going to get more? You know, for example, if you bought somebody a present and they weren't thankful for it, and they didn't like it, you know, it's fine if, maybe you want something different. I could get you something different, but, if they didn't like it, you probably wouldn't, they weren't thankful for it, you probably wouldn't want to get that person another present. You would do it because you love them, but, it's kind of, gets mind-boggling, and it's exactly the same, with you. If you're not thankful for the things you have, how are you going to be thankful for when you get more of it? You can never move forward until you start to be grateful for what you have, because you always have more than somebody else. Always. Always. So, that being said, I'll see you in a part 6. And, with the videos on this channel, I'm only going to be making these ones now, like I said, so you can see my progress. But I have a new method of doing things, and it came to me out of the blue, because I was asking how I could make this better, and we think we may have it. I'm pretty sure we got it, but until then, we're only gonna really truly know until we put into practice. So, that being said, I'll see you next week for Chapter 7, Part 7, and